What's up, everybody? Welcome back to the show. My name is Adam. I'm your host. So on today's episode, we're going to be reacting to a recent Joe Rogan clip where Patrick Bet Daivd came on Joe Rogan's show and they were talking about baseball cards a little bit. Obviously, if you watch the Joe Rogan show, you know that he doesn't really know that much about sports. He says that he doesn't follow them. He's obviously super busy, so I don't know if it's true or not, but whatever. So if you remember, Patrick Bet Daivd is actually one of the people who owned the O-Pee-Chee PSA 10 Wayne Gretzky and one of the Topps PSA 10 Wayne Gretzky's. And back in December, he sold them for $1.2 million. And if I were whoever told him to sell those cards, I would be probably pretty angry if I were him, because then literally later, I think like a few months, there was the Wayne Gretzky O-Pee-Chee that sold for, I think it was $3.7 million. So he lost out on a decent chunk of change by selling those cards at the wrong time. I think how the story was, I'm pretty sure he talked about this on a podcast, that he bought the cards either from someone at PSA or PSA brokered the deal. I forget exactly how it worked, because then one of the O-Pee-Chee was actually re-slabbed, which is pretty cool. So if you don't know, O-Pee-Chee essentially is what Topps is for Canada. So O-Pee-Chee was a Canada-only release. And the interesting thing about that PSA 10, and actually all of the O-Pee-Chees, is that they were actually cut with a wire. So I believe the tops were just cut with the regular blade, but with it being a wire, that made the cuts on all of these cards pretty rough. So like if you look at the PSA 10 that he sold, which is probably on the screen right now, the corner and the sides of one of them is actually pretty rough, but that's because of the way they were cutting the cards, essentially. So let's get right into the video.
The Joe Rogan Experience.
Let's take this opportunity to give credit to the sexiest man alive according to Guardian.
Fauci?
Did you see
Imagine
that?
a lot of girls lining up looking hilarious.
So I don't know if you know the picture. Did you see his pose?
Yeah, hilarious.
What did you think about that? I mean,
well, how the fuck do you do that? Aren't you trying to protect us from the evil,
well, I mean,
evil
when you're
coronavirus?
that sexy, bro, when you're that sexy,
I guess you just take a couple
I
seconds.
wanted to
take
give
a
you a
photo.
gift. I wanted to give you a gift.
Oh, you gave me a gift?
I figured if you're a
If
guy,
you give me a Fauci doll, I already have one.
No, I'm not going to give you a Fauci doll. I'm going to give you something a little more than a Fauci dollar. You know,
Fauci doll. I have a doll.
Because of what he just did. I got you Tony Fauci's Topps rookie card, PSA 10.
He's got a
This
rookie
is something
card?
I think you should keep for.
Is this real?
Yeah, I mean we just probably increased the value by 5 times right now just by talking about it. That's
This is
actually
real.
a card for Fauci.
When this card actually sold the first time, or not when it sold, but it's one of the highest print run PSA, or one of the highest print run Topps now cards. And there was some weird stuff going on with eBay where like some people were selling it for like $200 or $300, and some were selling them for $5. So obviously the $300, $200 sales, those were being show bidded, which was pretty strange at the time, because like I guess, I don't know, maybe they're trying to take advantage of people who don't know anything about cards. And if you don't know anything about cards, it probably is fairly easy in this circumstance. Like if you're looking at like other sports related cards, it's not as easy to probably trick somebody. But I think with like this one, it was sort of like, it was a random card that came out this year. So I thought that was pretty weird. The weird stuff that was going on eBay when that card first came out.
And
You see that? Can you see it on camera, Jimmy? He's throwing a pitch.
He's throwing a pitch. Did you see his pitch?
I would imagine it was atrocious.
You got to see the pitch. I don't know if you
can't.
can show it. You cannot, right? You can't show it right now.
Who had the worst pitch ever?
That's very arguable. But
Judd
there's some
Apatow?
bad ones.
50
Judd
Cent
Apatow had a
or-
bad one. 50 Cent had a bad one?
50 Cent.
Gary
had-
Del
Delbate.
Gary Delbate?
He had a bad one.
Oh, Baba Booey.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, well.
Lots, yeah.
Anyways,
It
I
happens.
thought
He's
you would
80.
appreciate that.
He's
you know,
80. Who the fuck is
that's
asking the guy to
sexy.
throw a
It's
ball?
a sexy guy right there,
Right.
though. I mean,
Okay. Well, thank you very much.
Yeah, I
appreciate
figured you
that.
would.
That's
You
a
would.
great
By the way,
gift.
you know how much that's worth today?
It's probably worth $50.
It's worth a couple $100.
Really?
No, that's the point. That a Fauci baseball card is worth a couple $100.
Whew.
But I think it just went up after he became sexy.
It is definitely strange that like people don't know the pricing of these cards. Like I understand Joe Rogan, obviously on the show all the time, talks about how he doesn't follow sports, so sports cards obviously aren't on his radar at all. But I think it's interesting that he was just like, I don't know, $50, and then it's like a few $100, which I think it actually was. Ended up there were a couple that were in the thousands, but I don't think those were sales. I think those were just the listing prices.
Well,
So
the
that just changed the
sexiest
game.
man in America, the sexiest, right?
Wow.
Yeah.
Why
look
would
at that.
it?
Whoa, it's worth $1,000.
All right, it just went up a little.
Holy
It's
shit.
just on eBay. Good
It
luck.
just went up right
well,
there.
that's
so.
what someone's
Correct.
asking.
But there's not a lot of them, so.
Yeah, no.
Thank you very much.
Today, his street credit for his baseball card just went up.
Yeah.
With Fauci, but we'll see what's going to happen there.
Yeah. How much? Who the fuck is collecting cards?
Dude, are you kidding me?
Do you know there's a UFC? I have a UFC card that's like worth money.
I have
yeah.
Max Holloway's rookie card.
How much is it worth?
I haven't looked, but the card game has exploded.
card
in the last
game.
2
Are you
years.
following it at all or no?
No, I don't have time for that shit.
Wait, you're not following at all what's going on with the card game?
No.
Okay, can I
Please.
shock you with some numbers
Shock
if
me.
that's okay with you?
Please.
Okay, what do you think is?
Yeah, like he said there, he's not following it all. So I think a lot of the stuff that is in this video is probably just going to be sort of like, it's probably just going to be sort of, flashy stuff along those lines.
The value of the most expensive card in the world today. Just throw a number out.
Does Babe Ruth have a card?
Babe Ruth's got a card, but it's not the most expensive.
Really? Jackie Robinson?
He's got a card, but it's probably not in the top 1,000 of the most expensive.
The Fauci cards also look like they're selling at about $200. I think the $1,000 that they said on the show was probably the listed price. It was not the sold price at all.
Oh, boy.
Yeah.
Well, I'm out of guesses.
Mickey Mantle has a card.
Okay, Mickey Mantle.
Okay.
How much is that?
I think Jackie Robinson probably is in the top 1,000. Like a PSA 10 is obviously going to be in the top 1,000. Maybe not a PSA 8 or a PSA 9. I don't know if there's really a definitive list of what the top 1,000 cards are. I would guess that Jackie Robinson would be in that top 1,000. But like I said, I guess if you, I don't know exactly. I don't know. I think it probably, if we're talking singular cards, if a PSA 10 or a PSA 9 or even a PSA 8 for that matter is probably going to be in the top 1,000, maybe even in the top 100. But again, whatever. So that's kind of semantics.
His
Is that number
PSA
one?
10 1952 Topps rookie card. There's only 3 of them.
Let me guess.
Please.
$20 million.
$20 million.
Really?
That's actually the number.
Really?
So you do follow cards?
No, I just took a
Dude,
guess.
that's like you're on the dot. It's $20 million.
I'm good at that.
The guy who bought it in 1998, the owner of the Diamondbacks, paid $104 for it in '98.
Whoa.
It's actually pretty funny that he was able to guess that card, which they're going to go into it a little bit about the guy and buying in the specific card, but like there was a guy who got it regraded by the Mike Becker authentication, and it was on display at the All-Star game. He said that he's had a 8-figure offer on the card, which I think he said it was around $20 million. I'm pretty sure, but he's turned it down. Which, there's the person who it's kind of hearsay. It's like, who do you want to believe? Do you want to believe the person who owns the card? Like, are they trying to inflate the price by saying that someone's offered him $20 million? I don't know, but that's just kind of the rumor that's going around based on what the guy said that owned it, which I think the guy that owns that one card that said he got the offer is different than the guy he's about to talk about, actually.
From 104 to 20K today.
That's a big jump.
A Luka credit card, a Luka rookie card, 2 days after his birthday, at 22 years old, sold for $5.2 million.
That's a basketball player, Joe.
Yeah, Luka Doncic. He's
know
a
you didn't
great
know who that
basketball
was.
player.
No, I was going to ask. Thank you.
I think that was the one of one, and I think it was 4.2 million. I may be mistaken by that, but I'm pretty sure it was 4.2, not 5.2.
You don't follow basketball.
I don't follow sports.
I got you. Yeah. So
I'm a sports commentator who doesn't follow sports.
dude. You got a baseball. You got a card as well. You got a card. You got a card with the.
I know there's a UFC
Yeah.
card.
I think also you can really tell that Joe. I don't know if it's a bit or not or whatever, but like I think it is maybe with just like with older people. I don't know, my parents maybe, but like I tell them about sports all the time. I tell them about like the rookies, and they have no idea who the rookies are. They just remember the players that were on the teams when the teams were a couple of years ago, or even some of the players on the teams now, but they don't really follow teams outside of their own region. So I don't know. Maybe maybe it's not a bit, and maybe Joe actually doesn't know.
There is.
I think it's worth some money.
Yeah, of
worth
course
a couple
it is.
grand.
Yeah, you got a card. The card industry today is booming. There's a few guys that are doing it the right way. The
card business.
Private equity business got into it. They got into it.
Yeah.
So Jordan's rookie cards were selling for like $25,000.
So Rogan has some cards from 2009, 2010, and 2011. It looks like. the 2000. They're all tops, so I'm guessing that's it. I imagine he probably was in some Allen and Ginter set, but because I just looked up Joe Rogan PSA 10, and that's what's coming up. I guess Joe Rogan Tops 2 might be another option. I'm just gonna search that really quickly. So yeah, I mean 2009 looks like it's the earliest card. But yeah, so he, like I said, he does have some cards. Not that many graded, but he has some cards from 2009.
A few years ago. And once there's only 330 of those PSA 10 rookie cards. These guys got into it. Next thing you know, it jumped to a couple of them sold for $700,000.
Couldn't you fake that? Can you fake a card?
Well, the best thing about the card game that changed is there's a grading service called PSA. So PSA, that's based out of Newport, they're not even taking any new cards right now because they can't. It takes 12 months for you to get graded. They're that busy right now, no joke. And it costs like $50, $40, $100 to get cards graded, depending on the quality of it. You send it to them, they look at it, and then based on that, like you see this year,
So I do think that he sort of was doing the thing. It's like when your buddy from high school or like some old relative, it's like, yeah, I've got all these cards from the 80s and 90s, and like you don't want to be like bum them out by being like, yeah, those are kind of worthless. Like I think he's sort of doing the same thing here with the way that he's explaining cards. Not really PSA, because like I said, it seems like he knows what he's talking about sometimes, but then sometimes, or I'm talking about Patrick Bet Daivd. Sometimes he knows what he's talking about, sometimes he doesn't. So I it's that's sort of an interesting kind of little thing that I noticed in this video.
says the PSA stamp. Mm-hmm. They give it a score. There's a VIN number to it, and then there's not a VIN number, but a.
Oh, he's also. That card's also one of my favorite cards, the Bernie Sanders card, which I'm actually surprised that he didn't give Joe both. He probably did give him both the cards, but I think it's funny that he only gave him the Fauci card. But I think because the Bernie Sanders card was from the inauguration where he was wearing the sweater and he was like sitting like with his arms and legs crossed. That one of probably my favorite cards of all time. Just a absolutely hilarious card, and that's what the card that's got right there too, which is really funny.
Serial number to it, and then this has got a value. Okay.
Wow.
So PSA changed the game. Beckett Grading Service changed the game.
Watch the entire episode for free, only on Spotify.
Yeah, so I mean that's the end of the clip there. So yeah, like you said, PSA Beckett changed the game. You know, I think this clip. So far, I'm actually just gonna look it up. So we're a couple days past when this clip came out. I mean, I don't know how many views eventually it's going to get. I would imagine it's probably going to have a decent amount. It's only a 5-minute clip, which I'm actually glad that Joe Rogan actually posted this on his own YouTube, so you could pull the clip from YouTube, because if it was just in his in the podcast from Spotify, I don't know how many people would have caught it. And like I said, Joe Rogan, he's one of the biggest entities. Like I think what we've seen over the past few years is we've seen tons of places write articles, but the growth, at least, I think, from cards. Like, I don't think necessarily there wasn't anything groundbreaking in this clip that's like, this is going to drive more people in. If anything, it gives it obviously a little bit more awareness. But it's probably going to give it proportionally more awareness than like any of these random articles or any of these random like news reports that are going on, just because like Joe Rogan is like he's probably the most powerful, the biggest media person in the world right now, whether you like him or whether you don't like him. Like, you know, there are some things that I wish he would just like not talk about. Like there's some things that I feel like he doesn't know exactly what he's talking about, but then like when he brings on comedians, those are some of my favorite episodes, because then they just talk about comedy, because I'm really interested in like stand up and interested in like learning about the kind of the art of comedy itself. So when he has those conversations with comedians, I think that's pretty interesting. You know, it's similar to like how Barstool, they were doing some box breaks with Ken Golden. I think those two media entities right now are probably they're probably two of the largest in the United States. I don't know if you could consider the world, but at least within the United States, they're huge. So like, I think it's a kind of a cool thing to see him talking about cards, even though he doesn't know anything about it. Like, I don't know if he would ever bring somebody on to talk about cards. Maybe, you know, if Jamie or somebody or Patrick Bet David's like, hey, you should have someone talk about cards more, maybe that happens, maybe it doesn't, but I don't know, we'll see. I think it was really cool to see him talk about it, but that's pretty much all I've got for this video. Thank you all for watching and listening if you're listening to the podcast. I will see everyone in the next one. Make sure you go follow on Twitter, TikTok, Instagram, and then YouTube and podcast. Thank you all for listening and watching. I'll see you in the next one.